Always study nature. When Emma was a child, she loved to sit by the old oak tree behind her grandmother's house. The tree stood tall and wise, its roots spreading deep into the moist soil. Every afternoon, Emma would bring her sketchbook, a small magnifying glass, and a jar to collect tiny treasures from nature, fallen leaves, pebbles, feathers, and sometimes even little insects. Her grandmother used to smile and say, "Always study nature, my dear. You'll find the answers to many questions there." As she grew older, Emma never forgot those words. But life became busier. She went to the city for college, surrounded by skyscrapers, glowing screens, and endless noise. The green fields and chirping. Birds were replaced by traffic, lights and ringing phones. She studied environmental science, yet ironically, she spent more time with textbooks and data charts than with the living earth itself. One summer, after years of chasing deadlines, Emma returned to her grandmother's village. The air smelled of rain and soil. It felt like the earth was breathing again. She walked down the familiar path to the old oak tree. It was still there, older, rougher, but as strong as ever. Beneath it, she found a small bird's nest and a colony of ants carrying food. She sat down quietly, closed her eyes, and listened. The wind hummed through the branches, and the leaves whispered secrets she had forgotten how to hear. That afternoon, she decided to start observing again, not as a scientist with an agenda, but as a curious human being. She noticed how the ants worked in harmony, never colliding though hundreds of them moved together. She watched the way sunlight shifted through the leaves, creating moving shadows that danced across the ground. She even watched raindrops gather on the grass tips, trembling like tiny jewels before falling to the earth. For the first time in years, she felt peace. Days turned into weeks. Emma began writing a journal about what she saw and felt. She recorded how bees chose flowers, how spiders repaired their webs, and how birds shared food with their young. Slowly, patterns began to appear, rules of patience, balance, and cooperation that existed everywhere in nature. She realized that every living thing followed its own rhythm, and yet contributed to the harmony of the whole. Nature was not just beautiful, it was wise. One morning, while watching a caterpillar struggle to climb a leaf, Emma remembered her own struggles in the city. She saw herself in that tiny creature, working hard, sometimes feeling stuck, but still moving upward. When the caterpillar finally reached the top, it rested for a moment under the sunlight. Emma smiled. "That's me," she whispered, still climbing. Her grandmother joined her later that day. Though older and frailer, her eyes still sparkled with kindness. "You found your way back," she said softly. "Nature has a way of calling us home." "Yes," Emma replied. "I think I finally understand what you meant. Nature doesn't just teach us about plants or animals, it teaches us about life itself." Her grandmother nodded. "Exactly. If you watch carefully, you'll learn how to live. Trees teach patience. Rivers teach persistence. The wind teaches freedom. The earth teaches humility. That's why I always told you, study nature. After that summer, Emma decided to blend her scientific knowledge with her renewed sense of wonder. She started a community project that helped children explore nature, just as she had once done. Every weekend, she led them into the nearby forest. They learned to identify bird songs, recognize plant species, and understand how ecosystems work. But more importantly, they learned to listen to the rustle of leaves, the hum of bees, the heartbeat of the earth itself. One little boy once asked her, "Miss Emma, why do we have to study nature? Can't we just watch it on TV?" Emma smiled and handed him a fallen leaf. "Look closely," she said. "See those tiny veins? They carry life through the leaf, just like our veins carry blood. When you touch it, you're touching a living story that no screen can show you. Nature isn't just something to look at, it's something to feel." The boy nodded, and in that moment, Emma felt her grandmother's wisdom living on through her words. The oak tree, the ants, the rain, all those small lessons had become a part of her. Years later, Emma's students would remember her as the woman who taught them to always study nature. They would grow up to be scientists, artists, writers, and dreamers, but they all carried that same message in their hearts. The message that nature is not separate from us, it is us. And sometimes, when Emma sat under the same old oak tree, now surrounded by children's laughter and fluttering notebooks, she would whisper to the wind, "Thank you." The leaves would rustle softly in reply, as if to say, "You're welcome, my child. You remembered."